comments and testimony on the matters that are pending. I make a recommendation only to the County Commissioners. I do not make the final decision. I will be submitting my recommendation to staff within 2 weeks of this evening's hearing. The application will then be scheduled for deliberations before the County Commissioners. If you wish to give testimony, I need you to fill out one of the sheets in the back, and when you come to the podium, please give your name and address for the record before you begin your testimony. If we have anyone on Zoom this evening, when the time comes, I will ask for your hand raising and we'll call on you. Yeah. First, staff will introduce the application, then we will hear from the applicant. After the applicant's testimony, we will then get into the public comment sheets. We will hear from those who are in favor, those who are neutral, and then those who are opposed. The public not speaking will be read into the record. We will then give the applicant and/or representative an opportunity for rebuttal of any testimony stated into the record from the public before we close the public hearing. After that point, we will hear no additional testimony. The time limits are 30 minutes for the applicant's presentation, 5 minutes for public testimony, and 15 minutes for applicant rebuttal. I would ask that you direct all of your testimony to me and not to the audience. Are there any questions regarding this evening's proceedings? Okay then, we are ready for case number ZON 20-0011.
For the record, presenting a request for a zone change from agriculture to rural by Stephen and Tracy Payman. The parcel in question is located approximately 1/2 mile north of the city of Post Falls city limits. It's located within the shared tier of the coordinated area of city impact, and the nearest major thoroughfares are McGuire Road to the west and Chase Road to the east. The subject parcel is slightly over 10 acres in size, and it currently has an existing residence and accessory shop located in the southwest corner of the parcel. The primary purpose of this request is to enable subsequent subdivision of this parcel into 2 lots. Given that it is zoned agricultural, subdivision is currently prohibited, and should a zone change request to rural be approved, the applicant could then proceed to submit a minor subdivision application if they want to. The parcel is bounded on 2 sides by public roads, and the area, as you can see by this aerial image, is predominantly low-density residential with some agricultural uses. The zoning is a mix of rural and agricultural. The parcel is adjacent to rural zones on the northwest, and there are many agricultural zone parcels. Most parcels in this area are 5 or 10 acres in size. Some are larger than that, but it's relatively uniform lot configuration within a 1/2 mile radius of the subject parcel. The parcel is located within the transitional designation for the comprehensive plan. And the purpose of this designation is really to reserve land for future annexation. It's not the nearest designation to city limits. That would be the border designation, and you can see on the south, to the south on the bottom of the screen, there's some border areas. But given that this is approximately a 1/2 mile from Post Falls, it's in the transitional designation. And this is zooming out to take a look at the boundaries of the areas of city impact. As mentioned, this parcel is located within the shared tier. You can see the Post Falls exclusive tier to the south. Given that it is located in the shared tier, staff reached out to the cities of Post Falls, Hayden, and Rathdrum to seek comment on this request. The area city impact agreement does specifically state the requirement to notify those 3 cities if agricultural land is to be rezoned within the shared tier. None of those 3 cities had any objection or requirements that they submitted, and nor any concerns raised about the rezone. This is just an aerial view of the project site. to give a little better of a sense. It's from Google, and it's a little bit outdated. There are residences located to the west, and this is showing an empty field, but it does give you a sense of the terrain. It's very flat. Highway 53 is located about 3/4 of a mile north of the subject parcel, and as you can see, there are agricultural fields interspersed with residential uses. As mentioned, there was no objection from the ACI cities. We did also reach out to the highway district, especially since they are planning on pursuing a subdivision if this zone change is approved. One thing that's worth noting is that currently the applicant is in process of establishing an accessory living unit on the parcel, which is permitted in the agricultural zone. And Post Falls Highway District reviewed that and approved a temporary approach, and mentioned in their review of this that that approach would need to be consolidated with the existing driveway if a subdivision is not approved. And so they are anticipating receiving an application for subdivision, and they did not raise any objection to this request. The building division is actively processing the building permit. They did issue the accessory living unit permit. And there was no objection from any agency providing services. Kootenai County Fire and Rescue didn't provide any objection. It's important to note that if the zone change were to be approved, the applicant would need to come back and submit a minor subdivision application, at which time agencies with jurisdiction would review that specific lot configuration and assess feasibility of things like utilities, access, specific to that proposed configuration. And community development did receive 3 comments. None objected, and none provided reasoning for the positions that they took. 2 were in support and 1 was neutral. Zooming out a bit, just to give a better context, this is the red line you see is the red circle is a half-mile buffer around the subject parcel. You can see that it's exactly 1/2 mile north of the city of Post Falls, which is in white at the bottom and in the bottom right of the screen. It's about evenly split between rural and agricultural. Probably more agricultural land within the half-mile buffer, but there's a lot of rural land slightly outside of it to the east. And there's some industrial land to the northwest. But within this half-mile buffer, it's a pretty uniform land use. Finally, it is worth noting that immediately adjacent to the parcel, both to the north and to the west, were 2 developments that occurred in a similar manner to what is proposed here. They were originally agricultural parcels, and they were rezoned to rural. And then subsequently, minor subdivisions, 2-lot minor subdivisions, were approved on each of them. And that's just worth noting to give some context about what has occurred immediately surrounding this parcel. So given these factors, the neighborhood is characteristic of what one would expect to find in a rural zone. There is a precedent. While each application needs to be evaluated on its own merits, it is important to look at, especially for zone changes, what has been occurring in the area. And there are similar instances of zone changes that staff feels gives a good precedent for this request. Additionally, staff feels that the request is not in conflict with the transitional designation, as the rural zone's 5-acre minimum lot size would ensure that low-density residential persists. And so with these factors in mind, staff feels the request is appropriate. And I could go into further detail if you have questions, but I stand for any questions you do have.
Thank you, Zach. No, I think your staff report and case file were very well done, so thank you.
Thank you.
And now we'll hear from the applicant.
Good evening, Madam Hearing Examiner. Rand Wickman for the record. I promise to keep it under my 30 minutes. Thanks to Zach. I think I would echo your comments. I think Zach did a good, thorough job with the staff report, and so I will not rehash most of the issues that he's done. As he said, and you can see the area is becoming increasingly rural, or increasingly rural zoned. I was in front of you not so long ago for one of the adjacent parcels. And, there have been a couple of minor subdivisions, and so, it really is kind of in a sea of 5-acre parcels out there. And that will be the end result, ultimately, of this zone change, if it's approved. Just a couple of other points. The neighbors are not opposed, which is always good, and I think is indicative of the neighborhood accepting the kind of the direction that it's heading out there, which is to 5-acre parcels. The ACI cities have not opposed it. So we think it makes good sense. If there's such a thing as a relatively straightforward and simple request, this one might be it. With that, I respectfully request your favorable recommendation on it.
Just out of curiosity, where are they putting the accessory dwelling unit? Do you know?
It is, there it is. He's got the staff, or the site plan for it. So right at the bottom of the screen is where Bodine is, and so it would be on, I should know this, but I was under the impression that they were going to divide the property into a north half and a south half.
Yeah.
And that would necessitate changing the driveway, I think. But that's my understanding of the way it was going to be, and I still think that's the case. But I was a little surprised to see the driveway coming in off of Bodine, because I thought the highway district preferred it to come off of Howell. So I don't know, Zach, do you have any detail on that issue?
Yes, I did meet Mr. Payman out on site when I was hosting the site, and briefly spoke with him. And my understanding, based on our conversation, is that he's planning on dividing it north-south to create an east half and a west half. And so this would be on a separate lot, and basically you'd have the boundary line, west of this new dwelling unit.
Okay.
That's my understanding of it. I have not seen any sort of sketch plan or materials that would show a subdivision configuration. So I don't want to 95% sure. Take it with a grain of salt.
And so yeah, when I had initially met with Mr. Payman, he had told me, I remember he had told me he wanted to do a north half and a south half, but based on this, it would make a lot more sense that he would do an east half and a west half, and that would make much more sense given where he's put the driveway now. So
Okay.
everybody has a right to change their mind, I suppose, until it's too late, and we're not
Right.
there yet.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And it doesn't appear that we have any
No
public
one,
comment this evening.
no one from the public's on Zoom.
So that being the case, I will call this hearing to conclusion. That will close the hearing for case number ZON 20-0011. Thank you.